Last night, Fox News erupted as Jim Carrey unleashed a venomous attack on Donald Trump's marriage, calling it a sham. White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt fired back, defending Trump. The clash turned personal, leaving the studio stunned. The tension in the Fox News studio was palpable as the cameras rolled. The host, Laura Ingraham, introduced the segment with a sharp edge, framing it as a showdown between Hollywood and the heart of American politics. On one side sat Jim Carrey, the 63-year-old actor known for his comedic roles and outspoken liberal views. On the other, Karoline Leavitt, the 27-year-old White House press secretary, a rising star in the Trump administration, her expression steely and composed. The topic: Trump's leadership and personal life, a lightning rod for controversy. Ingram barely finished her introduction before Carrey leaned forward, his eyes glinting with disdain. Donald Trump's marriage to Melania is a fraud, a publicity stunt to prop up his image, Carrey declared, his voice dripping with contempt. Everyone knows it's a loveless deal. She's trapped in a gilded cage, playing the loyal wife for a man who doesn't care about anyone but himself. It's pathetic. The audience gasped, some cheering, others jeering. Carrey's words were calculated, fueled by his well-documented loathing for Trump. He painted a vivid picture, alleging Melania's public appearances were scripted, her smiles forced, and their relationship a hollow transaction. Trump's not a husband. He's a narcissist who buys loyalty, he spat, his hands slicing through the air. Ingram tried to interject, but Carrey was relentless. He turned his fire on Leavitt, his tone shifting to mockery. And you, Karoline, you're just his puppet, a mouthpiece reciting his lies. What are you, 25? You're out of your depth, kid. Trump's using you to sell his fake family values to America, and you're too naive to see it. The insult landed like a slap, the studio falling silent. Leavitt's jaw tightened, her eyes narrowing, but she didn't flinch. Carrey smirked, leaning back as if he'd already won, his attack meant to diminish her to a mere pawn in Trump's game. Leavitt's response was immediate, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. Mr. Carrey, your obsession with tearing down President Trump doesn't give you the right to invent stories about his marriage, she said, her tone icy but controlled. You don't know the Trumps. I've seen them together, worked with them. Their partnership is real, grounded in mutual respect, something you clearly can't comprehend. The audience erupted in applause, conservative viewers rallying behind her. Leavitt leaned forward, her youth belying the authority in her words. As for me, I'm 27, not a kid, and I'm here because I earned it. You're the one out of your depth, throwing insults instead of facts. Carrey's face reddened, his composure slipping. He hadn't expected such a sharp rebuttal from someone he'd dismissed as insignificant. Ingram, sensing the escalating drama, steered the conversation back to Trump's marriage. But Carrey doubled down. Oh, please, Karoline. You're defending a man whose own wife can barely stand to be in the same room as him. Wake up, he shouted, his voice cracking with anger. Leavitt didn't back down, her eyes locked on his. You're wrong, Jim, and your hatred for Trump doesn't justify slandering Melania or me, she shot back, her words measured but fierce. The studio buzzed with energy, the audience hanging on every word. Leavitt's calm defiance contrasted sharply with Carrey's growing agitation. He leaned forward, pointing a finger at her. You're a cog in his machine, Karoline. You'll see it when he discards you like he does everyone else. The accusation was personal, meant to rattle her, but Leavitt's expression remained unyielding. She was ready to strike back, and the confrontation was far from over. The air crackled with hostility as Jim Carrey's pointed finger lingered, his words venomous. Karoline Leavitt, unshaken, met his gaze with a fire that silenced the room. You're wrong about me, and you're wrong about Trump, she said, her voice a razor's edge. The Fox News set seemed to shrink under the weight of their clash, the audience's murmurs fading as Leavitt leaned forward, her posture commanding. "You call me a cog, Jim? I'm a voice for millions who believe in President Trump's vision, something you've never understood because you're too busy preaching from your Hollywood bubble." Her words drew roars of approval from the conservative crowd, their cheers fueling her momentum. Carrey's smirk faltered, his hand dropping as he registered the shift in the room. Leavitt wasn't just defending herself. She was turning his attack into a weapon. "You want to talk about machines?" she continued, her tone sharp but steady. "Let's talk about the Hollywood machine that props you up, Jim. You're out here calling Trump a fraud while you play the tortured artist, but your whole career is built on pretending. At least Trump's real about who he is." The jab landed hard, and Carrey's eyes widened, a flicker of shock betraying his bravado. The audience erupted again, some jeering at Carrey, others chanting Leavitt's name. Laura Ingraham, sensing the moment, let the tension simmer, her eyes darting between the two. Carrey's temper flared, his voice rising. "Real? Trump's real? He's a con man, Karoline. His marriage is a contract, and you're selling it like it's a fairy tale. Melania's miserable and you know it." He slammed his fist on the table, the sound echoing through the studio. His attack on Trump's marriage grew more vicious, painting Melania as a prisoner in a loveless union, her every move orchestrated by Trump's team. "She's a prop just like you," he sneered, doubling down on his earlier insult. "You're both decorations for his ego." Leavitt's face tightened, but her voice remained calm, cutting through his outburst. "You're projecting, Jim. You don't know Melania, and you don't know me. I've seen her strength, her loyalty, her choice to stand by her husband. You're insulting a woman you've never met to score cheap points." Her defense of Melania was fierce, grounded in conviction, and it struck a chord with the audience. Women in the crowd nodded, their applause swelling. Leavitt's ability to pivot from personal attacks to principled stands was disarming Carrey, who seemed unprepared for her resilience. Ingram tried to steer the debate, but Carrey was unraveling. "You're blind, Karoline. Trump's using you, and when he's done, you'll be nothing," he shouted, his voice hoarse. The personal dig was meant to wound, but Leavitt's response was swift. "Nothing? I'm here fighting for what I believe in, Jim." "What are you fighting for? Attention?" The crowd roared, and Carrey's face flushed, his hands trembling. He hadn't expected her to match his intensity, let alone surpass it. The confrontation escalated as Carrey leaned closer, his voice low and menacing. "You're in over your head, kid. You think you're tough, but you're just Trump's shield. He'll throw you away, and you'll regret this." The threat hung in the air, personal and raw. Leavitt didn't blink. "I don't need your approval, Jim. I answer to the American people, not a washed-up actor." The studio exploded, the audience on its feet. Carrey's eyes burned with rage, his control slipping further as Leavitt held her ground, unyielding and fierce. Karoline Leavitt's words hung like a guillotine, slicing through Jim Carrey's bravado. The audience's roar shook the Fox News set, their cheers a wall of sound behind her. Carrey's face twisted, his rage barely contained as he glared at the young press secretary who stood resolute, her defiance a beacon in the storm of their clash. "You think you're untouchable, don't you?" Carrey hissed, his voice low but venomous, each word a dart aimed at Leavitt's composure. "You're nothing without Trump's name behind you, just a small-town girl playing at power, and you're fooling no one." The personal attack was vicious, designed to strip her of authority, to reduce her to an insignificant figure clinging to Trump's coattails. The audience gasped, some booing Carrey's cruelty, but Leavitt's expression didn't waver. Her eyes, sharp and unyielding, locked onto his, and the room seemed to hold its breath. "Small-town girl?" Leavitt countered, her voice steady, cutting through the tension like a blade. "I'm proud of where I come from, Jim. It's called hard work, something you might not recognize from your ivory tower. I don't need to tear others down to feel big, unlike you." The crowd erupted, their applause a thunderclap. Leavitt's ability to turn Carrey's insults into a testament of her own strength was electrifying, and it visibly rattled him. His hands clenched into fists, his jaw tight as he struggled to regain control. Laura Ingraham, sensing the moment's intensity, leaned in. "Let's keep this civil," she said, but her eyes gleamed, knowing the drama was ratings gold. Carrey ignored her, his focus solely on Leavitt. "You're defending a sham," he roared, pivoting back to Trump's marriage. "Melania's trapped in a lie, and you're complicit, Karoline. You're selling a fake love story to America, and it's disgusting." His voice cracked with fury, his hatred for Trump spilling over as he painted Melania as a victim of a heartless manipulator, her life a scripted tragedy orchestrated by Trump's ambition. Leavitt's response was immediate, her tone fierce but measured. "You're not a journalist, Jim. You're an actor spinning fiction. Melania Trump is a strong, independent woman who chose her path. Your obsession with tearing her down says more about you than her." The audience cheered, women in the crowd, shouting in support. Leavitt's defense of Melania was more than a rebuttal. It was a rallying cry, and it struck a nerve. Carrey's face flushed, his composure crumbling as he realized he was losing the room. "You're delusional," Carrey shouted, his voice hoarse, desperation creeping in. "Trump's a fraud, his marriage is a fraud, and you're just his. Cheerleader Karoline, you're embarrassing yourself." The attack was personal again, meant to humiliate, but Leavitt was unshaken. "Embarrassing? I'm standing up for truth while you're screaming lies," she shot back, her voice rising with controlled anger. "You're the one embarrassing yourself, Jim, ranting like a man who's lost his grip." The crowd roared, their energy surging. Behind her, Carrey's eyes blazed, his hands trembling as he leaned forward, his voice a snarl. "You'll crash and burn, Karoline. Trump's world chews up people like you, and I'll be there when it does." The threat was raw, almost unhinged, and the studio fell silent, the weight of his words sinking in. Leavitt didn't flinch, her gaze piercing. "I'm not afraid of you, Jim, and I'm not afraid of fighting for what's right." The audience exploded again, their cheers deafening as Carrey's rage teetered on the edge of collapse. The Fox News studio pulsed with raw energy, the audience's cheers a tidal wave crashing over Jim Carrey's unraveling composure. Karoline. Leavitt stood tall, her unflinching stare cutting through his venomous threat. "I'm not afraid," she'd declared, and those words now echoed, a challenge Carrey couldn't ignore. His face contorted, a mix of fury and desperation, as he gripped the edge of the table, his voice a low growl. "You're digging your own grave, Karoline. Trump's world destroys everyone, and you're too blind to see it." Leavitt's response was swift, her voice clear and commanding. "The only one blind here is you, Jim, consumed by hatred for a man you don't understand. I'm not in anyone's world but my own, and I fight for what I believe in." The crowd roared, their support a fortress around her. Carrey's attempt to paint her as a doomed pawn had backfired, her defiance only amplifying her presence. The 27-year-old press secretary was no longer just Trump's spokesperson. She was a force, and the audience felt it. Laura Ingraham, her eyes sharp, tried to regain control. "Let's focus on the issues," she said, but the personal stakes were too high. Carrey ignored her, his obsession with dismantling Leavitt driving him. "You're a prop, Karoline, just like Melania," he spat, returning to his attack on Trump's marriage. "That woman's trapped in a loveless charade, forced to smile for cameras while Trump parades her like a trophy. You're enabling his lies." His voice rose, trembling with conviction, as he leaned closer, his words a desperate bid to reclaim the narrative. Leavitt's eyes flashed, but her tone remained steady, lethal in its precision. "You're projecting your own cynicism, Jim. Melania Trump is a partner, not a prisoner. I've seen their bond, their shared commitment. You're insulting her strength to push your agenda, and it's pathetic." The audience erupted, their cheers punctuated by shouts of, "Karoline!" Her defense of Melania was fierce, rooted in loyalty, and it resonated deeply, especially with women in the crowd who saw her as a defender of dignity. Carrey's frustration boiled over, his hands slamming the table. "You're brainwashed," he shouted, his voice cracking. "Trump's got you parroting his nonsense, and you're too young to know better. You're a nobody, Karoline, a temporary shield for a failing man." The attack was cruel, meant to belittle, but Leavitt was unmoved. "A nobody?" she shot back, her voice rising with controlled fury. "I'm here representing millions, Jim, while you're screaming into a void. You're the one who's temporary, clinging to relevance. With cheap shots." The crowd exploded, their energy seismic, as Carrey's face reddened, his control slipping further. Ingram's attempts to steer the debate were drowned out by the intensity. Carrey, now visibly shaken, tried one last jab. "You'll regret this, Karoline. Trump's world spits out loyalists like you, and you'll be alone when it does." The threat was hollow, his voice strained. Leavitt leaned forward, her gaze unrelenting. "I'm not alone, Jim. I have the truth and the American people. You have nothing but anger." The audience's roar was deafening, their support a tidal wave. Carrey's eyes darted, his rage teetering on desperation, as Leavitt's words left him exposed and faltering. The Fox News stage vibrated with the audience's fervor, their cheers a relentless surge behind Karoline Leavitt's unyielding stand. Jim Carrey's last threat had crumbled under her retort, his face a mask of fury and defeat. His eyes, wild with desperation, flickered across the studio as Leavitt's words, "You have nothing but anger," echoed, stripping him bare. The 27-year-old press secretary sat poised, her gaze a steel trap, while Carrey's trembling hands betrayed his unraveling. "You think you've won?" Carrey snarled, his voice hoarse, a final attempt to claw back control. "You're a footnote, Karoline, a disposable piece in Trump's game. You'll be forgotten when he's done with you." The attack was frantic, personal, but it lacked the venom of earlier. The audience booed, their loyalty firmly with Leavitt. Her lips curved into a faint, confident smile, not of arrogance, but of certainty. "Forgotten? I'm here for a purpose. Jim, not for fame. You're the one chasing relevance, and it's slipping through your fingers." The crowd roared, their applause a thunderous rebuke, and Carrey's face flushed, his composure in tatters. Laura Ingraham, sensing the tipping point, tried to interject. "Let's wrap this up," she said, but her voice was drowned by the drama. Carrey, refusing to relent, pivoted back to Trump's marriage, his obsession a broken record. "Melania's a prisoner, Karoline. You're peddling a lie, and America sees through it," he shouted, slamming his fist on the table, the sound sharp but hollow. His portrayal of Melania as a trapped figure was desperate now, a last-ditch effort to regain ground. The audience jeered, their patience for his vitriol gone. Leavitt's response was a masterstroke, her voice calm but piercing. "America sees through you, Jim. Melania Trump is a woman of strength, choosing her path with dignity. Your lies insult her and every woman who stands by her convictions." The crowd erupted, women in the audience shouting in solidarity. Leavitt's defense was more than personal. It was a clarion call, and it resonated deeply. Carrey's eyes widened, his breath uneven, as he realized the narrative had slipped entirely from his grasp. "You're delusional!" Carrey screamed, his voice cracking, his hands flailing. "Trump's a fraud, and you're his puppet. You're nothing?" The outburst was unhinged, a man cornered by his own rage. Leavitt leaned forward, her voice steady, devastating. "I'm everything you're not, Jim. Grounded, principled, and unafraid. You came here to tear down, but you're the one falling apart." The audience's roar was seismic, their cheers shaking the studio. Carrey's face crumpled, his hands dropping to his sides, the fight draining from him. Ingram tried to close, the segment, but Carrey, humiliated, pushed back his chair with a screech. "I'm done with this circus," he bellowed, ripping off his mic and storming off the set. The audience gasped, then cheered louder, their support for Leavitt overwhelming. She remained seated, composed, her eyes following Carrey's exit, with quiet triumph. Ingram, flustered, rushed to conclude. But the moment belonged to Leavitt. The young press secretary had faced a Hollywood titan and left him shattered, her defense of Trump and Melania resolute. As the cameras panned to her, the audience stood, their ovation a testament to her victory. Carrey's retreat marked the end of the clash, but Leavitt's star had risen, her strength undeniable.